Okay, we're going to finish up the Chapter 9 Humanities 101 section on music. We've done Part 1, which is elements, and we did Part 2, and we got right up through Haydn's Symphony, page 242 to 243. And so we're finishing up here with the focus on Beethoven's Symphony in E-flat major, number 3, Eroica, on page 245. So there's a perception key on the symphony, and you have access to that on YouTube. You heard a little bit of that. Now we're looking at the focus on. And just kind of, I don't want to read through all that for you, but I just want to point out a couple of things here. And one is that this particular symphony, we were talking about symphony examples, is universally acclaimed by musicians and critics as a symphonic masterpiece. So it's like considered one of the best. It says it has some of the most daring innovations, means things that were tried out that were done had never been done before. For its time, it succeeds in powerfully uniting its movements by developing similar material throughout, especially the melodic and the rhythmic. So there's this, they're tied together melodically and rhythmically. It was finished in 1804, and he had intended to celebrate the greatness of Napoleon, but when he declared himself emperor, Beethoven was like, oh, crushed, that's not who he thought. So he erased that and put a general title, Eroica. Not erotica, Eroica. Okay, it has 4 movements, and they talk about there following the tempo markings you would expect in a classical symphony, but it has some other things. It's much longer, and let's listen to a little bit of it, and then we'll listen to some information about it. Now, symphonies use a lot of string instruments, and you can hear all the various string instruments, violins and violas and cellos and so forth. They also use a lot of flutes and woodwinds. This is the first movement, marked as Allegro con brio, fast and breezy, is a sonata form. Remember we looked at that? With the main theme of the exposition based on a triadic 3-part chord in the key of E-flat major that resoundingly opens the movement. The development section introduces a number of related keys, and it comes back to the home key of E-flat. Then there's a coda section, but we probably won't get that far. But you can say it's very fast. Breezy is not heavy, because the next movement is going to be heavy. And you can see it's nearly an hour long. We certainly aren't going to be listening to all of that here on this video. Little flutes and woodwinds there. Okay, so you get a little feel for the movement and the rhythm, and well, really the variety, the contrast in this piece. And this is not even done with the first movement. Well, that's pretty amazing, and it's considered this wonderful piece. And again, it's very formalist. It's may or may not move you in terms of emotion, okay? But it does some people. When you look at the paragraph in, I'm going to get this one of them started here. The end of that paragraph about it on 245, it says that the feelings that are evoked and revealed are profound and enigmatic, which means kind of puzzling, but they're strong. And so, it's kind of like a food palette thing, very sophisticated. Okay, let's take let's take a look at this one. All right, this is a guy kind of explaining some key things about it, and it's a BBC production. Okay, we're going to kind of stop right there because we sort of talked about the dedication to Napoleon. But just to recap a little bit there, did you notice what she said at the beginning? That Beethoven wrote this masterpiece when he was starting to go deaf. You know, the key component with music is how it sounds, and he was starting to lose his hearing. It threw him into such despair that he contemplated suicide, but instead of kind of descending into that, he just did everything he could. He overcame that difficulty, that disability, if you will, and and produced something marvelous, really incredible. And he talked about Julian talked about, you know, what he did to make it different, why it was longer, but basically using the same thing. So it's just a really remarkable piece on many fronts, just musically by itself, but when you consider the challenges, the things that Beethoven had to deal with in order to create it, I think you just can gain even a greater appreciation for his accomplishment. All right, well, not everything is classical music, but it does give the greatest examples of good form and is the highest level of achievement in music. And right up there with it, but in a completely different way, are the blues and jazz, popular American music. It starts on page 250. Uh, the blues really started from African American communities in the South. So down here, Florence, Alabama is one of those places too. Uh, Can't remember his name. I've gone to his house in Florence. Shoot, I wish you were right there with me to remind me of his name. His last name is Hardy. But anyway, he wrote the St. Louis Blues, um, among other blues, and he was born right out of Florence. Jazz is a style of the blues. It became popular worldwide, and a lot of great musicians, you know, see that as kind of a combination of some really difficult, complex structures on the level of classical, but with that blues influence. Now, blues doesn't necessarily mean sadness, okay? It can be, but it's broader than that to kind of being soulful. And then it bled over uh, into rock and roll. It was, you know, those different structures, chord structures that were unique, and rhythm and blues and rock and roll. And so really what we would consider the more popular styles of music today evolved from the blues. They aren't forms of, obviously, of classical music. So what do they come from? They have their basis in the blues, which is really cool. All right, so yes, we did get done here. And I do want to kind of just mention the perception key that goes with your Web 2.0 assignment, page 254. It's similar, it's not exactly the same, but it says on popular music to choose a number of popular pieces of music and identify their style. So I've kind of done a variation of that on your Web 2.0 where you put together some clips, because you can't play the full thing, of various popular music you like, and kind of talk about it. Try to talk about it using some of the words that you've learned. Identify their style, kind of whether there's emphasis on melody and rhythm or if there's any harmony to it. That will all make it even better, but um, you know, that's where we're headed to next. And your quiz will have, there's lots of these terms and concepts there, so you want to review that, review them in the chapter. All right, well, it took us almost it's 3 videos, almost the whole time to do it, but there's so much complexity here, and we need to take time to listen to some of the pieces together to do that. But I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something from it, and that you will venture out and kind of explore some of these on your own and listen to them in full. And that's it. We're done with the music chapter.